76ers, but about those Brooklyn Nets. We'll talk about that. Plus, the 49ers. What are they going to do with the number 3 overall pick at the quarterback spot? Jimmy G, what's up? Things don't seem so safe right now. And, of course, my brother, the one and only Rasheed Wallace, will be in the house. All that and more coming up. First Take in the house. Let's get it.
For us, everybody's going to feed up what we do, so we have to set the tone. We're just getting started.
Like a rocket,
It's all about me, putting this game together and get back to where I was.
We got to be prepared to match their energy.
We have a bunch of guys that are ready to win now.
Our games and our skills, they speak for themselves.
Obviously, Brooklyn has a lot of talent, but at the end of the day, there's only one ball. You got to play defense too, so.
I got 2 chains. You heard him, Ben Simmons, talking a little trash, or I'm at least going to make it seem that way. Both teams tied 37-17. They face off tonight. Nets, Sixers, let's get it. Max Kellerman back in the building. Good to see you, sir. Stephen A. I'm Molly Karen Rose. And fellas, that's where we're starting. One ball, and you got to play defense too. Stephen A., how should KD and Kyrie respond to Simmons for that comment tonight?
Well, number one, they should respond like they customarily do to anybody else. They should drop buckets. This is what they do. KD, when healthy, is averaging 30 a game. Kyrie, averaging 28 a game. I mean, we know what kind of showstoppers they are and what they bring to the table offensively. But I tell you, if they really, really want to get back at Ben Simmons, you know what you do? You back the hell up off of him and dare him to shoot jump shots. That's how you could really, really get back at him, to be quite honest with you, because that's the only weakness that I see Ben Simmons has in this game. I think that this dude is a jump shot away from being LeBron James 2.0. I just think he's that lethal. His passing ability, his basketball IQ, his ball handling ability, his rebounding ability, and I think that he is a large candidate, a top 2 candidate for NBA Defensive Player of the Year. I just think that Ben Simmons is that elite defensively. So listen, I don't think that, he's believing in himself and his teammates and giving Philadelphians an opportunity to really, really look at the 76ers and say they got a chance against this team. They can do some things against this Brooklyn Nets team. So I don't think that, Ben Simmons was being grotesquely disrespectful or anything like that. He's believing in himself and his teammates. But this is basketball. And basketball, even though it's a team sport, you do find yourself in situations where you have one-on-one encounters potentially. So there may be times when Kyrie is face-to-face against Ben Simmons and he can handle that. There may be times when KD is face-to-face directly one-up against Ben Simmons and they can handle their business in that regard, and it would be entertaining. But ultimately, how do you get back at Ben Simmons for saying what he said? 2 points. You drop buckets. And then when he has the ball, you back up 10 feet away from him and dare him to shoot a jump shot, because that's not what he does. And that's the difference between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets as far as I'm concerned.
Look, to me, I think you're right about that, Stephen A., but to me, the question is about Philadelphia. And pardon my voice, I got the Pfizer shot a couple days ago, and the side effect for me somehow is I lost my voice, Stephen A., but it's coming back. To me, the issue is the pressure is on Philadelphia. It's on Ben Simmons and the 76ers. Remember, before the Nets got James Harden, I wasn't picking him to come out of the East, but I did say this. When I saw Kevin Durant, the way he came back from the Achilles when he was playing early in the season, I thought the Sixers really need Ben Simmons to be the best version of himself on defense, because there's no stopping Kevin Durant. But the best defensive matchup in the world is Ben Simmons. That's as good as you can do. You can't do any better than that. And by the way, I think he is the defensive player of the year. I don't think anyone else is really in the conversation, to be honest. Maybe Embiid was before he got hurt. Look, the reason the pressure is on Philadelphia right now is because the Nets don't have James Harden, because the Nets are playing the second of back-to-back on the road, because the Sixers are supposed to win this game. If you're fully loaded, you got Embiid and he's balling, you got Simmons, you got your whole crew with you. And the other team, the main challenge in the East, along with the Bucks, doesn't have the guy I keep saying is the most important player on the team. James Harden rolled out of bed, showed up in Brooklyn looking a hot mess, and was a walking triple-double with 30 points in wins. In wins. When he's not on the team, they are not the same team. So no James Harden, second of back-to-back on the road, and you're talking, Stephen A., Simmons especially, but the Sixers got to show up and win.
Well, for me personally, number one, I think you're wrong about there not being anybody else in the conversation. I'd put Ben Simmons one myself as Defensive Player of the Year, but I'd throw Draymond Green and Rudy Gobert in there. When you look at the Utah Jazz and the way they've played defense and they've been top 5 all season long, I got to give Rudy Gobert credit because you don't get much on the interior going up against the Utah Jazz. And in the case of Draymond Green and the Golden State Warriors, even though they're 2 games under 500, they're 4th defensively in terms of what they allow from 2-point range. And you know that has a lot to do with Draymond Green because he's consistently going up against, he's consistently defending against guys that are bigger than him. So he's undersized at that forward spot, but yet he does what he does. So I definitely think he's a candidate as well. Having said that, getting back to Ben Simmons, I think when you look at Ben Simmons, this is a guy, and I got an interesting stat for you. Max, do you know he's averaging over 10 shots a game this year? Do you know this is his 4th year in the league, and he went from 12.3 to 12.2 to 11 point something last year, like 11.3, and now he's down to 10. We talk about this guy and his star potential. He's actually shooting the ball less each year than he did the year before. And that's by and large because of A, the pieces that are around him, but B, more importantly, because he's not a threat from the perimeter. This guy, if Ben Simmons, who we all love and we all think is terrific, wants to be a true superstar, which he has the potential to be, you have got to get a perimeter shot. And I would just say this, as elite as he is defensively, and I respect where the hell he's coming from, he does not have any business talking about how there's just one basketball and somebody's got to play defense when, guess what? The Brooklyn Nets are the one team in the NBA that can give up 120 points a night and still win basketball games on a regular because that's how lethal they are offensively. And when you are so limited in terms of your perimeter shooting ability, because that's the only thing that I think he's limited in, how are you going to talk about these two snipers in Kyrie and Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets? That's just not wise. And knowing that James Harden eventually is coming back, I just don't think that was the wisest thing for him to do.
I want to address a couple things you said. Number one, I'm glad you shouted out Draymond Green. He always deserves it. Gobert, Ben Simmons addressed that. He said, talk about Rudy Gobert, I don't see him guarding anybody. Like, is he because I just dropped 40 on them. I thought I couldn't score, right? Like, Simmons addressed that. I think Simmons is the best defensive player in the world.
Embiid ate him up early in the season.
I'm glad you shouted out.
Embiid ate him up earlier in the season, but I'm just saying, Embiid ate up
Gobert right.
early in the season. I'm just saying that, but schematically, what Quinn Snyder does, he anchors that defense. You got to give credit where credit is due to Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, for sure. He's a very valuable defensive player. Yeah. I think when your eyeballs are on Ben Simmons this year, you're like, that's the defensive player of the year. You talk about he can't shoot. Stephen A., you're absolutely right. If he could shoot, he's LeBron James. But you can still not be LeBron James and be a great player. Is he an MVP player? No. No, because of the shooting, that's true too. But you know what he has done since he's come in the league? Ben Simmons has created more open looks from 3 for his teammates than any player in the NBA since he's come in the league. So what did Daryl Morey do in the offseason? Brought in some shooters, brought in high percentage scorers, not volume scorers, but guys who make the most of it when you give them the ball, either in the paint, high percentage, or shoot well from outside. So Simmons, as a brilliant basketball orchestrator, gets those open dudes the ball, and they take the shots. Not one person, but a bunch of them, which is one of the reasons that the Sixers have been a powerhouse this year. You and I both know. If it's not obvious yet, the way Harden and Kyrie coexisted in the backcourt, the way KD looked when he came back initially from the injury, if those dudes in Brooklyn are healthy, ain't nothing the Sixers can do.
Well, that's what I told you from day one.
If you want to exploit the Sixers, somehow, maybe it's good to have a player like Embiid. A little soft in the middle, who's going to really stop Embiid? So they do present certain matchup problems, and they should win this game.
Let's move on here. Nets have lost 4 of the last 5 to the Sixers, guys. Both teams tied for first in the East again. That game, Nets at Sixers, 7 Eastern tonight, right here on ESPN. Can't wait. Let's move on to a friend of the show.